Assalamu alaikum once again. Welcome to Salam Media this morning with me, Najma Kota. I look forward to being with you for the next 2 hours. We'll be rounding up the program at 1 o'clock. It's a beautiful winter's day. I know our people living in South Africa, especially in Johannesburg, when there's a little bit of a chill, we really, really feel cold. But today it's a sunny, bright blue day, and we're looking forward to your company throughout this very special podcast series that we will be hosting over the next few weeks on a Thursday at the same time. Joining us, as I said, is Dr. Ismail Vadi, activist, former MP and MEC for Roads and Transport in Gauteng. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to Salam Media this morning.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Najma. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I am very well, thank you. I think we've been waiting a long time to get this off the ground, and we finally have. I know you introduced the whole idea early in the year, and I'm glad that we're finally sitting together here today to bring the celebrations to light for people who don't know what it's about. I found quite interesting, Ismail, that when you launched your website and you've been updating us on information, and when we looked at the data on people logging on to the website and viewing the website, it actually was quite surprising to me, like it was to you. In fact, the people from Japan were looking at. So let's just what is Lanesia about? Why is it so special? I think I was mistaken. I thought it was only special for people who live there and were moved during the apartheid era under forced removals. So I'm looking forward to you taking us through the history and giving us the essence of why we are so passionate about why this particular suburb in the south of Johannesburg, South Africa. What motivated the celebration for you?
Right, so Indonesia this year is 70 years in existence. Many people were not clear because if you just Google Indonesia and look at some of the historical records, the township was officially proclaimed in 1963, but that's the proclamation process. So many people thought that Indonesia started around the early 1960s. But the truth of the matter is that Indonesia was established formally in 1955. And the first institutional structure that was there that says this is Indonesia was the Indonesia High School, which opened on the 1st of February 1955. By the middle of that year, about 50 or 100 families had been moved to the old military barracks that was housing really what was known as the Cape Coloured Corps of soldiers. They were moved out, and the first group of families were really put in barracks type of structures with soft partitioning in between for their homes or their rooms. And that marks the formal establishment of Lenasia as a community. Of course, it started off because of the Group Areas Act. The apartheid government, the National Party, came into power in 1948. And one of the first things it did was to pass the Group Areas Act in 1950. And what that meant is that each racial community had to live in separate ghettos. So prior to 1955, before the passing of the Act, people lived in reasonably mixed communities. If you think of Newlands, Sophiatown, Vredendorp, Forsberg, those were very mixed communities living together from a racial point of view. But after the passing of the Act, the apartheid government spent almost the better part of that decade and into the 1960s and 1970s to forcibly move people from the historical areas where they were living into Indian group areas or colored group areas, Soweto for African people. And of course, the whites lived in much better places, better resource areas, closer to places of work. And we were dumped into dormitory suburbs quite far from the economic hub of this province. At that time, it was Transvaal. But the economic hub was really central Johannesburg. So we don't celebrate the Group Areas Act. That's not our intention. What we want to celebrate is the resilience of this community, because Lenasia had nothing. When it started, it had the school, Lens High School, and the railway station. A few homes were subsequently built in Extension 1, 2 or 3 streets, and then, of course, the other extensions were developed over a decade. There were no shopping centers, there were no sports fields, there were no facilities, no religious institutions, and people were just dumped here. And this is what we are celebrating, the resilience of this community. Today, Lenasia is a thriving community. It's got a bustling local economy. It's got over 60 mosques, churches, temples. It's got 21 schools, a good number, 4 or 5 private schools across the religious denominations. And it's a thriving community. So we celebrate the resilience of our people, their struggles, their achievements, and the sense that they've built a community. Things have changed since the mid 1980s. Alongside, or very on the eastern, wing of Lenasia, we have the Tembalishle informal settlement. It's a huge informal settlement that started off really in the late 1980s, but today there's probably about 20 or 25, maybe 30,000 people staying there. So the entire demographics of Lenasia has now changed. It is a mixed non-racial area. The kids are going to the same schools, etc. The CBD is integrated. So the community has changed over time. And I think this is what we're celebrating, the triumph of this community against apartheid, against the Hated Group Areas Act, against racism, and building a non-racial community.
But it took a lot of effort on the part of people like yourself and many others that were involved in the, well, if you look, if we, I was going to skip and go into the 80s, but you know, your article that you had written when you first introduced the idea, I found it quite interesting that you went as far back as 1910. Speaking about the Gandhian policies, the passive resistance, the fact that we have Tolstoy Farm, and you know, not too far away is of course the other it skips my memory now, Tolstoy, and then we've got the Gandhi the place where they met. Please just jog my memory there on those two places. Yeah, can you please mention that? Yeah.
All right, so just on the outskirts of Lenasia, about 5 kilometers away, we have the historic Tolstoy Farm. This was established by Gandhi in 1911. And for those who are familiar with Indian history, in 1904, the Transvaal Indian Congress was established. It was really there to organize the Indian people against racial segregation, against discrimination that they were experiencing. And many of the people who had come to the old Transvaal were merchants. Of course, others had come as indentured laborers in the Chal. But the Indian Congress, Gandhi was instrumental in setting up the Natal Indian Congress in 1894, and as I said, the Transvaal Indian Congress in 1904. So these two organizations had mobilized against racial discrimination, and in 1906, 1907, there was a massive passive resistance campaign where Indian people willfully and voluntarily broke and defied racially segregated laws. And then this campaign was picked up again in 1913 and 1914, where thousands of people, Indian people, were involved in struggle against the government of the day. What Gandhi did was that he secured this piece of land really as a donation by a sympathetic white person, Kallenbach, and he established a commune for all the passive resistance. Many of them had lost their jobs because they were imprisoned during the passive resistance campaign. And Gandhi created this sort of commune or village here, not very far from Lenasia, first of all, to give them a home, and secondly, to build on the principles of self-reliance. So they were planting there, they were learning, studying there on their own, but it also became a central base for the organizing of the passive resistance campaign throughout the province. Of course, Telstra Farm, there's still, Mr. Monhira has been good enough to restore and to build a structure there. We have now a beautiful vegetable garden and some landscaping. So it remains a heritage site for us. And we can trace back Lenasia's history right to that period. But Lenasia as a formal establishment was, as I said, in 1955. And we're now celebrating 70 years of its existence.
All right, it's 13 minutes past 11 on this podcast series on the Lenasia Lens 70. We're saying lens. It just struck me now. Lenasia coined lens, and it's the lens 70. So I think people who don't know what lens is, it's actually Lenasia, and we call it lens. Like we did Friedrich was fitas, lens is lens. Am I right, Ismail?
That's right. It's a shortened version for Lanesia, but that's what remains on people's tongue at the moment.
Correct, correct. So we take our first break. When we come back, we speak about the struggle in the 80s.
In Black Seed, there is a healing for every disease except death. Experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black Seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality Black Seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference. When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Hey Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bye, you didn't.
Oh no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
We are speaking now to Dr. Ismail Vadi, and just before the break, we spoke about the political landscape at the time, and going as far back as the Gandhian era, and how Lenasia was eventually established in 1950, 1955. We were on the 70th year now, right? So the struggle, because at the time, of course, there was the resistance against the apartheid government. In terms of the 80s, can you elaborate on the struggle?
Sorry,
yes,
1980s. Yes.
Yes,
I think
yes.
the decade of the 1980s was actually quite a historic period for us. It started off with the 1980 schools boycotts. Prior to that, there were pockets of resistance, small community meetings, largely driven by the Black consciousness movement, but nothing on a mass scale. People were afraid of the apartheid government. They were afraid of detention, of being arrested, etc. The ANC was banned. Many of its leaders were banned or were in exile. But the 1980s students' boycott broke that fear, that central fear that was all-encompassing in the community. And what we saw between sort of April and August of that year, almost 4,000 students from the high schools in Indonesia, the 4 high schools in Indonesia, joined other students in colored communities and African communities in a national schools boycott. And I think that had quite a transformative impact on the consciousness of people. The fear was broken, many of the students were detained, the parents got involved, and suddenly the climate of repression almost evaporated, and people said, but we can't take on the apartheid system, we can't fight it. Shortly after that, in 1981, the apartheid government had elections for the South African Indian Council. This was a racist structure. It had no real decision-making powers. So it was an advisory body to the apartheid government. And of course, the Transvaal Anti-Psych Committee was established to call for a boycott of that election. That stirred the imagination of the community. In fact, throughout the Transvaal, mass meetings were held. Thousands of people rallied to the call of the Transvaal Anti-Psych Committee. The elections was, I think they were a major flop. In Forsberg, for example, I remember at the polling stations, by the end of the day, there would not have been more than 50 people that came to vote. So it had completely discredited that structure. And I think that, reorganized the forces in the community and laid the basis in 1983 for the revival of the Transvaal Indian Congress. The TIC was never banned, but it stopped functioning really from 1964-65 after Ahmed Kathrada, Lado Chiba, etc. were imprisoned. A number of other people were sent to Robben Island. Dr. Dadu, who was its president, had gone into exile. And I think, the organizational machinery had virtually been crippled. But in 1983, we sort of, as the younger generation, we forged a new relationship with the older leaders like Dr. Yusuf Jasad, the late Qasim Saluji, etc., the late Maulvi Saluji. He was the last president of the Transvaal Indian Congress when he was banned in 1964. We started going back to these older leaders and say that, look, we need to rebuild the anti-apartheid forces. We need your support. We need your leadership, your experience, your wisdom. And I think they were gracious enough to forge a new bond of cadreship, of camaraderie with us as the younger generation. And the apartheid government made one, I think, significant error. It thought it was starting to reform the apartheid system and introduced a new constitution in 1983. And what that allowed for was the establishment of the tricameral parliament. So there would have been a parliament for white people, for colored people, and for Indians. And of course, Africans were completely excluded. The idea that they had was that they must get representation in the homelands or in the Bantustans. And it called for elections. It hosted elections in August 1984 for this tricameral parliament. The TIC, the Transvaal Indian Congress, was also instrumental in setting up the United Democratic Front. Alan Busak had made that call at the same meeting where the TIC was revived. And a national structure emerged made up of a whole host of sporting, cultural, civic, business organizations, trade unions. Almost 640 organizations came together to form the UDF. And between the UDF and the TIC in the Indian areas, we mounted a massive campaign against the tricameral parliament. In Lens, on the day of elections itself, which was in late August 1984, the police had started attacking students who were protesting outside the civic center. By the afternoon, students were throwing stones at the police. They were firing tear gas. And of course, the word spread out through the radio stations, etc. And when people came back from work, thousands of people gathered outside the Lenasia Civic Center. And the cops opened fire. Petrol bombs were thrown. It turned the community upside down. People, adults were in, elderly people were injured. A number of people were detained. And I think that, that moment will never come back in our history. And there's a video on TikTok and etc. on YouTube capturing that moment. But what it did, it destroyed the whole idea of the tricameral parliament. And it positioned the community of Lenasia entirely against the apartheid system. And of course, we can fast forward very quickly. By October 1999, it became almost impossible for the apartheid government to continue ruling in their own way. And in October of 29th of October, they then released 7 key leaders from Robben Island, Ahmed Kathrada, Walter Sisulu, Andrew Mlangeni, and others. And this moment when Kathrada was released on that day, He was brought to his brother's house here in Willow Street early that morning. By 10 o'clock or by midday, thousands of people were just coming there to greet him. And at that night, I mean, at the park right next to his brother's home in Willow Street, there were just spontaneously 3 to 4,000 people had gathered there. And
Hmm.
this was the first address he made to the people of Lens, spontaneously, unorganized, around, when he just got released from prison. So those were historic movements. And I think that history, the tragedy perhaps is that our younger generation is not familiar with the extent of resistance to apartheid, the scale of mobilization,
Absolutely.
and what this community was able to achieve.
Correct. And if we talk about the vibrancy of the community, then eventually there were cinemas and businesses establishing themselves, and there's that rich history as well, but also the culture that came off this. And this is what makes this community so special, this suburb so special at the time, and of course, continuing to this day.
Yeah, so I think from a sporting perspective, we had nothing but dusty grounds, what is known as the tech grounds by people, and nothing turf. It was just gravel soccer grounds, gravel cricket pitch. But the community, picked up rolled up its sleeves, pulled up its socks, and established non-racial cricket association. Your brother was played a very big role in that. The late Dr. Hari Azwan was instrumental. A whole number of other
Correct.
leading private cricketers. From a soccer point of view, that's really been the heartbeat of sports in Indonesia. The Indonesia Soccer Association and the Indonesia Football Association was established. Uh, I mean, we played on gravel, and a whole non-racial ethos emerged. Very strong sporting culture, and out of that came two professional soccer clubs. One was obviously Swaraj United Football Club, and then Bluebells. And
Hmm.
Bluebells, although they were professionals, they had no local field, no sports grounds to actually stage their matches. And that became a whole struggle with the Civic Center, which eventually, I mean, after a year or two, the Civic Center relented, and then the Lanesia Stadium was established. But
Right.
then, music is integral to the Indian community, whether it be Indian, classical music or Qawwali, or even some of the new bands. I mean, because there were no cultural activities, there were no cinemas really came in the 70s, but people had to express their cultural identity, who they were, etc. And a whole number of musical groups emerged, which played in local halls, school halls, etc. And a vibrancy started developing across the board, whether it was sports, culture, education. I mean, this apartheid government was forced to build schools. Initially, it was asbestos schools, not the brick
Correct.
buildings we have. And we went to those asbestos schools, and some of our most prominent professionals, whether you talk of, heart specialists, brain specialists, top medical people that we find today, they all emerged out of Lens High and Nirvana schools, which were asbestos schools with broken windows. So this
Hmm.
is really, I think, what we celebrate is in the face of adversity, people simply said, we are not going to allow the apartheid system to break us or to break our spirit. We will rise above that and we will excel and become the best we can be for all South Africans.
Right. We've progressed into a society that's now non-racial, from a totally racially divided community. We are now non-racial. Of course, the establishment of the Temelihle, informal settlement that brought in also residents, although people have their reservations about the informal settlements, but at the time it was something that in fact started this, breaking those boundaries and the divisions between Black and Indian, if I may use the terminology. So I think now there's this, do you think we lack apathy? That vibrancy you speak about, that establishment of, uh, the resistance, the resilience, the struggle, the terms we use, the solidarity amongst the people to get equal education, to have equal sporting opportunities as well as facilities. Just as an example, religious establishments, mosques, temples, built by the community. And correct me if I'm wrong, but now there's this tendency. Do you think 70 years later over the past maybe 10 years or more, we've had an apathy from our side. And what would you say about development post that era?
I think, look, broadly as a community, Indian African, we there is a sense that we belong to one community. Is there full integration? The answer is no. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
our schools are integrated, but then the Indian middle class have opted for private education, and in the 1990s, a number of them had moved their children to what was called former Model C schools in white areas. Also, the younger generation they've moved out of Lenasia. They've looked at other housing
Correct.
opportunities in the northern suburbs. So the demography of Lenasia has changed. Older people have passed on. Many older people remain here. Younger people have moved out. And of course, there has been a massive influx of African people in informal settlements. So at a formal level, yes, there's integration in our schools. If you look at the CBD, I mean, it's quite mixed. You have shopping. If you go to the mall, it's very, very mixed, etc. But has there been a true spirit of non-racialism? The answer is no. I think, in a sense, the people of Thembelihle live there. Domestic workers come and work here, or gardeners come and work here during the day. That's the interaction with the community, with individuals in wherever they're working. And at night they go home and their life carries on. So that true non-racialism is not there. That's the reality of the situation. But there's also been another phenomenon. In the last 25 years or so, there's been a massive influx of people from India, from Pakistan, what I call the second wave of immigration since our forefathers came to South Africa. Now, if you take the Lenasia CBD, many of the flats there and the shopping, the shops that are there, they are largely now, been taken over by this new wave of people who have come from India, particularly India, to some extent Bangladesh, Pakistan. There was a time when I was young, I knew almost every shopkeeper in Lenasia. To go in, I knew
Mm-hmm.
the person, they knew me. Perhaps after a time you go there, they sort of recognize you. Today, if I walk around the Lenasia CBD, I don't know most of the people there. All of the shopkeepers have rented the premises from the original owners, and they are
Mm-hmm.
foreigners, whether it is Somalians or Ethiopians to some extent, but largely Indians,
Mm-hmm.
Pakistanis, and Bangladeshis. Now they're not going to go back to India or to their places of origin. Their children are in schools here. They've occupied all the flats, and of course, many of them have thrived economically, and they're also buying property in Indonesia. So the demographics have changed. Is the integration between, let's say, the historical residents of lands, people like ourselves, and them?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is no. They also got their own little sort of subculture. They're
Mm-hmm.
now establishing their own mosque in the area. They're setting up their own resources when it comes to medical and those kinds of facilities. So there is an integration, and I think that becomes the big challenge for the future of Lenasia. In
Mm-hmm.
Asia, we were one vibrant community, Hindus, Muslims, Tamils, Christians. We lived together. We were neighbors. We went to the same schools.
Correct.
We grew up together. We played on the streets, whether it was soccer, cricket, Kiribeka, whatever it is, Keniki. We played on the streets. We were like one extended family. That kind of
Correct.
spirit is not there anymore. And I think it worries me because we are more indoors because of crime. People have locked themselves up into ghettos. We have now gated extensions, not just a gated community, but gated extensions. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't find children playing on the streets and enjoying the life on the streets in a sense. Many of
Mm-hmm.
them have got electronic gadgets to keep them going. So we have to think a little bit about the future also. We can laud the past,
Absolutely.
we can
Mm-hmm.
celebrate the past, but I think we've got to reflect a bit more carefully about the future.
Yes, and on that point, before we conclude, I just want to quote you where you said it's a time for reflection of the past and chart a dynamic future for our community. And I think perhaps this would be the main focus of this series and, starting it or introducing it with this um, intention, with this narrative that we need to now create a dynamic future for the community. How we do that, we have to go back to what we did in the past. Can we actually take that and move forward with it?
Well, I think we can learn lessons from the past, We are all becoming old, so we sort of tend to live a little bit in the past and look backwards. But I can tell you through this Lens 70 campaign, there is a new energy that has emerged. I've met now new emerging leaders in this community. In fact, they are leaders there already. They've
Correct.
successfully hosted a paddle tournament. I don't play paddle, and our past, we never played paddle. But the dynamism of those youngsters, the way in which they are organizing these events, as in partnership with Lens 70, I'm quite amazed. And the innovation and the vision that they have, I think I'm quite impressed. I mean, we've had for the first time a major chess tournament in this
Right.
community. 100 chess players came, a good number from Soweto, etc., and they beat our youngsters in those tournaments.
Right.
We've got to catch up. We've got to catch up. And the last thing is that there have been very big events. The Lens FM, the Fate at the Stadium this year drew 20,000 people. It was a record crowd. We're having the Gandhi Walk in September this year, 7th of September. I think it's going to be a very big event. We will be having a whole series of sporting and cricket events. On Saturday, as you indicated, and I think the other younger people will come on just now, we're going to be exhibiting Ahmed Kathrada's archival material, his photographs, his prison letters. And next week, surprisingly, we thought, is it possible to organize a writers' fair, Lenasia Writers' Fair? And I thought, okay, we might get 10 or so authors. Lo and behold, we have 35 authors who have published in Lenasia. They've published
From Lenasia, yes.
I was shocked. So when I put the call out on the WhatsApp groups, I had at least 15 people, young people, I never heard of them. They said, Uncle Ismail, we've published, this is the photograph of my book. I really want to be part of it. So a new energy emerging, and I think that is what sort of brings hope to this community for the future.
Absolutely. So I want to commend you and your team for thinking about this and for making it a success. And I hope that we can, from our side at Salam Media, promote it as much as possible so we can get the people investing in this and create an interest around not just Lenasians, but of course the idea is to educate people about this wonderful little suburb of ours that's grown phenomenally. So thank you very much for joining us this morning and taking the time to talk to us. Jazakallah khairan.
Thanks to Salam Media for partnering with us. And I would really encourage people to visit the lenasialegacy.co.za website. There's probably about 150 articles in there, historical, current, and I think it's proving to be quite an important resource for students, for community people, for further research. And just to begin to, as a custodian of the legacy of this community, it's there on the website. So I hope people will visit the website soon. Thank you very much.
We'll try to announce that website link as often as possible. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
After this break, we speak to members of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation on the archival exhibition.
Is beyond comprehension. Virtually everyone is displaced, hungry, and in urgent need of life-saving humanitarian support. The Al-Imdad Foundation has been working tirelessly to address the health, nutrition, and water needs of the population. Our hospital, water deliveries, and hot meal programs are made possible with your support. Your donation, big or small, is a lifeline for those in dire need. Help Gaza survive. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
For too many communities across Africa and the world, access to clean water remains a dream. At Africa Muslims Agency, we dig deep, reaching into the heart of the earth to fill the cups of those in need. Sponsor a water well for 16,500 Rand, or a borehole in Afghanistan for 55,000 Rand, or Africa for 65,000 Rand, or any amount. With water comes food, health, education, and growth. An ongoing reward with Africa Muslims Agency.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Kids these days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
When you give water, you're reaching out to drought-affected areas, bringing them to life. Fresh water to drink, to clean, and to grow. That's the power of water. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back. And as I mentioned in our introduction, we'll be speaking to our three very special guests from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation in Lenasia. Jacques Bona, who is the Assistant Archivist, and then, of course, Shaheda Seedat, Project Manager at AKF, and Anele. I beg your pardon, Anele. I just keep calling you Anele. I'm going to call you all by your first names throughout this discussion. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Najma. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm so glad you are all here to join us this morning to talk about the Ahmed Kathrada archival department as such. But Jacques, if I may ask you, please explain how you went about collecting the information for the archive collection.
Okay, so basically the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation archives is a collection from documents, letters, speeches, artifacts, audiovisuals, books and booklets produced by the AKF, and also books of which Uncle Kathy used to read while he was still in prison, Robben Island, and some study books that we have. And also we have correspondence. So with the correspondence, it's just, letters Kathy from friends and families, and also travel correspondence in such a way. So how we go about with the collection of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation archives collection came up after when Uncle Kathy passed away. So some of the collection, they were from the estate collection, and then we also been collecting other collection as part of our ongoing work.
Okay, so from what I understand, it's more based on the life story of Ahmed Kathrada, as it were. But is there any other material that's related to the history of Lenasia as such?
So if I can come in here, Najma. The reason why also Kathy and Kathy's legacy is important is because when Kathy came out of prison, he lived in Lenasia for a number of years with his brother in Willow Street, opposite the park there. And, one of the biggest highlights, I think, of Lenasia was the day Kathy and all the other Rivonia prisoners were released, and Kathy came home. And there were thousands of visitors who came to the house to greet and celebrate with Kathy. So I think that is part of Lenasia's legacy, which is important. And we thought it was fitting for us to open the foundation in Kathy's name and stay in Lenasia. So we stayed true to the legacy of Kathrada. And that is why we are based in Lenasia, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I think that, as Jacques was saying, all the collections and all of that was Kathy's, a lot of it is Kathy's prison collections, which over the years we have collected. And, some of it was given to us. Some of it, when he just came out of prison, was given to the Maibuya Center in Cape Town. So they house quite a bit of his material as well. But we also have struggle collections of many other struggle heroes, struggle stalwarts, from Lalu Chiba to Chirish Nanabai, and many others who also lived in Lens. And they have given us their collections as donations while they were still alive. So we have it, and true to their legacy, they were based and lived in Lenasia, and we are also in Lenasia, and we house their collection here at the foundation.
Right. So this also speaks to the, the resistance, resilience, solidarity, and during the struggle in apartheid, during the apartheid era, where members of the Lenasia community were activists to a point where some of them even gave their lives. And so I would, if I may, see this exhibition as a testament to people who contributed in the way that they did towards our freedom.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. Uncle Kathy, who spent more than 26 years on Robben Island, and Uncle Isu, who spent 18 years on Robben Island, Uncle Shirish, who spent 10 years on Robben Island. These are just some of the people. We have the Abdul Bam collection, who Abdul Bam was mostly based in exile, but now lives in the Johannesburg North area. He also gave us part of his collection. And all of these people, and he was in exile, he worked in the anti-apartheid movement. So all of these struggle heroes, in one way or another, gave their life, not their lives, but a part of their lives to the struggle. Some of them, the Uncle Abdul is still alive, but most of them have passed on now. And their collections are testimony to the kind of lives that they lived.
Absolutely. We take a quick break. When we come back, we're joined again by our panel from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation.
Of the Crocodile River bordering the Kruger National Park. As a guest at Buckler's Africa Lodge, one can enjoy an amazing sunrise or sunset on our spacious deck area while you catch a glimpse of some wildlife sightings along the Crocodile River. The sounds of the African savanna will greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Kids these days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back to our panel and to all of our viewers. We're speaking to members of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, responsible for the archive, opening of the archive department. Before the break, we spoke about the significance of the exhibition. In a broader sense, how will this benefit the community going forward? The question is open to the panel.
I'll start. Okay, how's the archive going to benefit the community? We live in a country where history has been distorted. So I'm speaking in terms of, research purposes, or if you want to know the history of our country in general. So the space is always open for researchers. That's the significant part of, Lenasia having, this rich historical space as such.
Okay, if I may continue, and then Anele will come in. I think that before we always had this, the archives available to the public, but because we didn't have a dedicated space for the archives, it was a very limiting, way in which people could come and do some research or access. We even used to have school children coming to ask for information on Kathrada for maybe, as a struggle hero that they had to write about, but we didn't have really much accessibility. But with this new space, we are able to house or to have people come in, do their research comfortably, because it's now just a dedicated space to the archives. And I think once we are still trying to get funding, we got some funding to do a concept document on digitization of our entire archives. But once we do get funding for this archives, I think for the digitization, that would make it accessible anywhere in the world. So that is hopefully our aim, in a kind of long-term future. But for now, people can come into the space at any time. They can sit down, they can take out, with our help, wearing gloves and all kinds of archival requirements. They can look through the documents and see, for example, the kind of letters Kathy wrote while he was on the island, or they can even access his UNISA assignments. We have his original 60s UNISA assignments and see the kind of brilliant things that he wrote. So this is accessible to people now when it wasn't before, but I'll let Anele come in as well to add.
Sure.
So there's a famous saying that I always go back to that says, until lambs have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And in South Africa, as is at the moment, it's very important that our history is preserved so that whoever comes in to try and distort it, we still have the details and the story being told from the horse's mouth, actually, because some of the archival stuff that is stored here are letters from Kathy to his friends and vice versa. And they probably just telling each other how life is and that is Kathy still telling his story. And because Kathy was not an island, his other comrades' lives are also told through Kathy's stories. And in that sense, South Africa's liberation history is preserved. And I think that is important, that our liberation history doesn't die down with the moving of time and the change in the way that information is being distributed.
Anele and Jacques, if I may, are you born free? From the born free generation?
Nope, but we are learning from the past.
Okay, that's exactly what my question was leading to, because I think it's important. I think born frees have taken for granted the fact that there was quite a history behind how we got our freedom. And because we focus so much, particularly on this program and podcast, on Lenasia itself and its community, and its population really over the generations. I think this, apart from the series itself, which is what we hope to achieve from it, is also this exhibition that you have. And of course, I would call it a museum, Shaheda, Anele, Jacques. I think you have a mini museum there. It's important then to motivate or to inspire the younger generation, if I may, to learn about this history, not only for school projects and academic research. I know that the foundation has quite a bit of your projects focused around that, the anti-racialism, etc. But also the fact that there is this richness in our past that we should learn from. I just want the viewpoint of Jacques and Anele on that, please.
I mean, we keep saying that it's the history of Lenasia, and true, it is, because Uncle Kathy came from Lenasia, and a lot of the other people's history is also stored in Uncle Kathy's story. However, it is also the history of South Africa, because it contributed so much to the liberation struggle of South Africa. So I mean, a lot of South Africans would benefit a lot from coming to learn from this. I know I have benefited a lot since coming into the organization and just learning in depth the history of the liberation struggle of South Africa and how things came about. And that gives you a sense of more appreciation for what we have, the ability to move freely, the ability to express yourself without being arrested, the ability to meet in public spaces and not being chased away. It's basically, it is the history of South Africa, and I think it would benefit everyone to come in and just take a peep and see and learn.
That's right. Thank you so much. Shaheda, do you think that it's, it's because it's Indonesia? I'm talking about just the dynamics of how the broader Johannesburg or Gauteng landscape works in terms of what's in the South and what the South can actually offer on the whole. Do you think that, obviously this will draw the attention of people to learning about the richness of the South as well. But do you think that the location might be, a problem for people coming to visit?
So I think, here in Johannesburg, people are quite north-centric in a way, they like the northern suburbs. But I think those that are really interested in the history, and many of the previous Lens inhabitants that have moved out are still interested in the history of Lens and what's happening in Lens. We find that, if you come and visit us here in Lenasia, if people really want to, it's a half an hour drive. So it's not as if it's so far flung or whatever that, it's inaccessible in some ways. So we've never had an issue in terms of, where we're located, because if people really want to come see us, they do come. And I think the same will work for our, as you call it, mini museum, our archive space. I think that if people really want to come and visit us and see the archives, they would make that effort to come in. So I am not too worried. I think even like whoever comes in now will come in terms of, being really interested on the day. But we are open now, and this thing is not going to be put away or packed up or anything. As you can see just now on the screen was a whole lot of Uncle Kathy's gifts and awards. And some of it are even like Lalu Chiba's gifts and awards, all kinds of trophies, if you look on the top shelf or whatever, and then further down from all over the world. So if people are really interested and can't make it on Saturday, they're very welcome to come in at any time into the archives and come and have a look around and see our photographic, our artifacts collection, and our white paper collection, which is our documents, which houses, all, as I said, all the stories from letters to other correspondence, and of not only Kathy, but other struggle stalwarts. So there's quite an array of things to view. And people are very welcome to come in whenever they would like to. So I hope that we get a good crowd on Saturday, and we've had thus far a good response. But those that can't make it on Saturday are welcome to come in at any other time.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about the reintroduction, the part of the historic reintroduction of the archival department. What can people expect? How do they, in fact, RSVP, get in touch with you so they can attend the opening of this historic place?
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit, and then I'll hand over to Anele for the other bit of it. So let me start by saying that this isn't any new collection. Some of it we've gotten in recent times, but we've always had these collections. Our problem was space. We have now moved to a premises right next door to our office. It's in the Signet Terrace Office Park, and it's right next door, but it's a dedicated space for the archives. And I think in this way, we are able to showcase much more. We didn't even have a quarter of the space on the other side of the office. It was just the archive unit and 2 desks for Jacques and our archive person who's not in today, Yasmin, to sit and do their work. But there wasn't. This is an entire almost museum-like space. So it's reintroducing of all of the collections, almost like it's new, because some of the things even the staff had not seen before, because all of it was bubble wrapped and kept in a storage unit because we couldn't keep it. So we decided, when we were given this opportunity to get this premises, that we showcase all of the things and that we open it not as a new collection, but as an existing collection that we can now get people in to view and to understand and appreciate the legacies of Kathy and many other struggle heroes. I'll hand over to Anele now.
Certainly.
So yes, and we also, because we've gotten a bigger space, we also encourage people who have historical archival material that they don't know what to do with, to come and find a home for the material in our archive space. I think it would be a very good place to store any material that tells of our liberation history, so that other people can learn, and generations from now, everybody still has access to that. The event is on Saturday. It starts at 2 at the Signet Terrace Office Park. And you can RSVP at eventsakf@gmail.com. Or otherwise, you can send a direct message on one of our social media platforms. We are on X, we are on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll definitely welcome you. And if you hear about this at a late stage and were not able to RSVP, please come. We'd be honored to celebrate and commemorate this special occasion with everyone.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad that you mentioned that you can, in fact, contribute other archival material if there is any. And it leads very well into my next topic of, the 2 media personalities. They happen to be, but also authors. And I know that I saw a collection of the Indicator newspaper in the hard copy form in files that were brought and dated over the years. So I think that's also part of the archival material that's accessible there. Thank you very much to Anele, Jacques, and Shaheda for giving us your time this morning. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday, and I hope and I'm sure it's going to be a huge success.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Najma, and we hope that you do come along as well to have a look. And whoever is interested.
Yes, we'll invite as many people as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Bye-bye.
All right, after the break, we introduce our next guests, as I said earlier, Fakir Hassan and Assam Kota.